Welcome back to ATL Day Ones. I am Tenitra. That is Jarvis. And this show is something that you can catch not only wherever you download your podcast, but also now on Amazon Fire and Roku. So check it out there and let us know what you think. And hey, wherever you can and whenever you can, leave us 5-star reviews. And of course, continue subscribing to the Locked On Sports Network on YouTube because, man, you guys have us getting closer and closer and closer to 4,000 subscribers. Speaking of closer and closer, we are minus 5 days away from the next game that we're going to see the Falcons in on the road. That is, they're going to be playing against the Rams, and it'll be an interesting game because you've got a team in the Falcons that want to prove that the first part of the week one game is better than what you saw the last part. And then you've got a team in the Rams that definitely wants to shake off a blasting and blowout from the Bills in their week one game. So it'll be interesting to see. But we know that the Falcons are busy installing the game plan and what they're going to do against the Rams. And Arthur Smith talked about the fact that, hey, they ran the ball 38 times versus trying to look all pretty with passing stats and everything. But he talked a little bit about what the Falcons are trying to do in that game and what we should expect to see from them in this game in week two.
To win the game. He affects the game. I think the one thing that was very encouraging, and I think Kyle, he blocked really well. And we're certainly going to target Kyle, but we also have other good players. I was very encouraged by what I saw about Drake. I thought OZ made some good plays.
Good plays indeed. Now, Kyle Pitts, of course, had 7 targets in that game, caught 2 balls for 19 yards. Drake actually had 7 targets as well, 5 catches for 74 yards. But I think you made a great point in the first segment that we want to dig into a little bit more. And that question becomes, it kind of seems that Arthur Smith was hinting at the fact that there's going to be a little bit more game planning around getting his tight end involved, even though he acknowledged, hey, it's great to see that the thing KP wanted to improve on in the offseason was what we saw in game one. And hey, let's just face it, Marshawn Lattimore, only 1 reception between Kyle Pitts and Drake London when Lattimore was on him. So you got to give the Saints secondary a little bit of credit in that regard. But my question is this. I think that the game planning hints at the fact that whether you get Tyler Algier back or not, and that gives you, 2 or 3 running backs, if you will, I think there's going to be more effort on getting that passing game going, specifically with spreading that ball around. So how do you think they're going to work in a little bit more of opportunity for KP?
You know what? To be honest with you, I think there is something to say about how Arthur Smith wants to play football, right? We know that he wants to run the football, and he's put that on tape. So I think that the Rams aren't going to be caught off guard by the Falcons trying to run the football. Right. And they're going to see that, hey, Kyle Pitts is a real tight end, So he showed that, he put that on display that, hey, I worked on my blocking. I'm a better blocker, so therefore I can be in whatever formations. You guys are going to have to really guess what we're trying to do, right? Because a lot of times defensive coordinators call their defenses according to personnel, right? So if it's 12 personnel and you're thinking that, okay, they're going to come out with 2 tight ends in line and then 2 wide receivers, sitting out there and a running back in the backfield, and then they may come out there with Kyle Pitts in the game. They can come out there and spread out 4, or have Kyle Pitts lined up in the slot and have a running back. So that was the 2 totally different lines of thinking when you're talking about a defense as far as what they're going to run or whether they're going to run or pass. So I think that for the reason why I think it was so big, and we've talked about this on our show several times, for Kyle Pitts to become a better blocker so he can be in on more formations. So they can give him a little bit more diversity as to what play to call within those sets, right? Because I think that's what Arthur Smith, the idea, the theater of the mind of Arthur Smith and what he wants to do and what he wants to call as a play caller, you're going to put the defense on their heels because you don't know how they're going to line up. You know what the personnel they have in the game, but you don't know how they're going to line up. And I think that's why it's going to be a little bit more easier for him to give Kyle Pitts a little bit more targets because of one, the success of the running game that they put on tape, and 2, him being diverse and being able to line up in line and be able to put his hands on somebody and split out wide and beat somebody one-on-one.
Yeah, and I think too that Arthur Smith, he's really a perceptive guy, right? And
Right.
so he'll kind of watch trends and watch, okay, well, yeah, I acknowledge that I didn't get him as involved as I wanted to do, and maybe fans wanted me to, but there's a reason why. However, one of the things that he's going to be looking at, I'm sure, is not just getting Kyle Pitts involved and getting him more targets, but more importantly, getting him targets in that low red zone because it didn't show itself as a problem in game one nearly as much as it's shown itself, not just last year, but in the last several years. But there were some questions there about the offense stalling a little bit and them not seeing fans not seeing what they wanted to see in that red zone. So yeah, I do suspect that he's going to find different ways to not just get KP involved, but get Kyle Pitts the ball and get him the ball in some critical situations to let him deliver. But speaking of critical situations, you know what's critical when it's midday and you're tired? It's critical for you to get your coffee AM so that you can reset for the rest of your day.
Coffee AM King here. Coffeeam.com/locked on. That's the website that you need to go to. Now I'm about to tell you exactly why you need to go there because it is critical for me when I get up in the morning at 4 o'clock to go get my workout on. When I come back, I'm a little down, man. I'm like, because I exhausted all my energy. I'm coming down off my pre-workout and everything. So I'm just like, man, I need to pick me up because I need to get ready for this show and give you this good greatness. So how I do that, I go ahead and get me one of those Kenya K cups. I pop that bad boy in there, and it's so quick. It's so easy. And to tell you that, Coffee AM is the best small batch coffee roaster in the entire country, I'm not telling you a story. I'm telling you the absolute truth. Now that I've told you why you need to go there, here's some more incentive to go ahead and do it, right? Because there's always a hook. There's always a hook. All right, now go to coffeeam.com/locked on. Drop in the promo code box locked on, and you're gonna get 15% off of all gift sets, teas and coffees. So if you're not into the coffee thing, go ahead and get you some tea. And if you're not into the tea thing, go ahead and get a gift set for somebody because holidays coming up. It's always somebody's birthday coming up. So go
Always.
ahead and get it. And so you can get 15% off by dropping locked on in that promo code box. And make sure you go ahead and pull up on the best small batch coffee roaster in the entire country. And it's right in your backyard.
And speaking of pull up, when you pull up to this show each and every day, Jarvis and I, we're going to give you the same show. We're going to show up 5 days a week with that same energy. But there were some questions about which Falcons team showed up at what point in week one, game one. So, Jarvis, when you think about that and you look at the team that you saw for 3+ quarters in week one, do you think that team is going to show up on Sunday? Or do you think we're going to see more of the team that showed up the back half of the fourth quarter when they touched down in LA to take on the Rams?
I think it was somewhere. It's gonna fall somewhere in the middle
Hmm.
because I think that it would be delirious of me to think that Cordero Patterson is gonna rush for 22 carries and rush for over 100 yards, and they're gonna rush for over 200 yards against the Los Angeles Rams,
Yeah.
who it's pretty safe to say that they're better up front than the Atlanta Falcons. I know that we saw some improvement on
Yeah.
the offensive line, but I'll be ridiculously dumb if I sit up here and say, hey, yeah, they're better up front than the Rams. No, not at all. So I think that you hope that they fall somewhere in the middle because, I think that, the Falcons defense, given what we saw last week, I think they can take advantage of a few things on the Rams offensive line because they're dealing with a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
Actually, three guys on the offensive
Mhm.
line are going to be starting for the first time. So I think it's going to be there's something there. There's something you can take advantage of right there. So I
Mhm.
think Dean Pease is going to put together a nice game plan to be able to take advantage of that because that's just what you do in the NFL. You find a weakness and you take advantage of it. And I think so. I think that. I don't think that the Falcons are going to get 4 sacks a game, but I
Mhm.
wouldn't be too shocked if they got 1.5, maybe 2.
Yeah, because let's just face it, I wouldn't call Matthew Stafford the most mobile quarterback ever, and he's a little hobbled right now. And
He'll give it
also,
away too.
yeah, I mean, it's yours for the taking. And I was just going to say that is why, in part, while I believe that AJ Terrell will have a bounce back game, I do not think
Yes,
you're going to see fourth
indeed.
quarter AJ this coming Sunday. I don't think you're going to see him fourth quarter for 4 quarters. And also, I think that it depends. You speak about injuries, right? And
Yeah.
questionable players in questionable positions. You do know you're going to get Cooper Cup. What you don't know is whether you're going to get Van Jefferson, Odell Beckham Jr. You really don't know who you're going to get in that wide receiver room. So my thing is, I think that also could be advantage Falcons, because I do believe that for some of the kind of miscues that we saw in the secondary, especially oddly enough, uncharacteristically from the cornerbacks in particular, I don't think we see those mistakes again this week. And Jarvis, of course, the depth chart came out for week 2 on Tuesday. The chart was virtually identical to what we saw in week 1. Are you good with that? Should it have been virtually the same, or should there have been some moves made anywhere?
I mean, I like exactly where it is, and
Yeah,
because only thing is, yeah, even though Tyler Algier is at the third string running back,
mhm.
I would like to see him dressed this week.
I
That's
would.
all.
Period. Period.
Period.
That's all. Yeah, that's all we're asking in terms of that depth chart. We don't need to see any changes. I think everybody also should have an opportunity to just have some consistency. And of course, my mind immediately went to the only position that even remotely could be in question, which would be the center position. Everything else, I think, really is stabilized, and it's just a matter of in the terms of the wide receiver core or the tight end room, who gets more touches. Same, like you said, in the running back core, and pretty much the end. But when we get back, speaking of the old line, which, hey, we've been giving them their flowers for everything they've been doing on the field, because it was a good look for them in week 1. They've been doing some good things off the field as well. And Coach Sanders with a word for you. We'll talk about it on the other side in For the Culture.